Good morning. My name's Richard, and I've got a little thought for the day I'd like to share with you based on Psalm 52. So let me just first read it from the NIV version. Why do you boast of evil, you mighty hero? Why do you boast all day long, you who are a disgrace in the eyes of God, you who practice deceit? Your tongue plots destruction. It is like a sharpened razor. You love evil rather than good, falsehood rather than speaking the truth. You love every harmful word, you deceitful tongue. Surely God will bring you down to everlasting ruin. He will snatch you up and pluck you from your tent. He will uproot you from the land of the living. The righteous will see and fear. They will laugh at you, saying, "Here now is the man who did not make God his stronghold, but trusted in his great wealth and grew strong by destroying others. But I am like an olive tree, flourishing in the house of God. I trust in God's unfailing love for ever and ever. For what you have done, I will always promise you in the presence of your faithful people, and I will hope in your name, for your name is good." Well, there we are. That's quite a fierce song, isn't it? And like many others, it appears to be in two parts. One is a bit of outrage and complaining to God. Why doesn't he bring down the bad ones and quick? And then turns around to a real sort of praise of God and knowing that actually everything's going to be all right and trusting in God. Anyway, let's just think about it. It's a story that has a bit of a background actually, because you'll recall, we'll just remind ourselves of it. David and Saul were in great dispute. If you remember, they were at loggerheads with each other, and David was basically running for his life. He was looking for a hideout somewhere, so off he goes to the land of Nob, where he meets up with Amilahek. Sorry, let's get it right. Amilahek, and he sort of obviously tells him his tale of grief, and Amilahek takes him in and looks after him, and actually presents him with Goliath's old sword, which I imagine was a great trophy and a wonderful present, but basically a sign of great support and endorsement for David. And unfortunately, this story gets back to Saul via one of his henchmen, Doeg, who was probably there or at least heard about it. Anyway, old Doeg goes and rats on David, and Saul gets into a real temper and revenge attack, and he comes along with an army to Nob and basically destroys the city and kills hundreds, men, women, and children. So an absolute outrage. So then I think David must have sort of recalled all this and must have gone through a period of great remorse, really, as he's done before when he's had some bad moments. But anyway, David wrote this psalm sometime after that, so it is perhaps a reflection on that great event. And he starts off with sort of righteous indignation, doesn't he, about Saul and what a vengeful and hateful man he is. And surely it's time that God brought some justice to it and pull him down. And so he's a complete disgrace to all the people. Such big words. Surely God will bring him down. So I suppose we sometimes have similar thoughts ourselves, don't we? Perhaps reading the news, we see, stories about Putin and his army and those mercenaries that are working for him, and just think, what a lot of evil there is about, and surely God can do something about that right now. And of course, that's our problem, isn't it? We don't see things as God would, and not on his time scale, and not with his enormous vision of everything else that's going on. So I think we have to just think, yes, God has his time scale and his own plan. So we trust in God in the end, that he's far wiser and knows more than we do. So how can we come to conclusions about these matters? And then David concludes with a nice little opening saying, I am an olive tree flourishing. And that's a lovely picture, isn't it? That he feels as great as an olive tree. And of course, to the Hebrews, that was a massive joy. The olive tree provided olives and hence olive oil for all manner of things, particularly for making bread and for probably doing most of the cooking. And a wonderful tree for them, full of greatness for them. So to say you're an olive tree and flourishing is really quite a serious pat on the back. But he continues, doesn't he, and says that he just feels himself righteous and hopes that God is seeing like that too. And he says, I will put my trust in you, praise you, and hope in you forever. So David is back to hopefully more normal thoughts and feeling very close to David, as we believe he was throughout his life, really, except for those bad moments. But anyway, David must have had real regrets about that, letting the cat out of the bag about him being there with Ahimelech, who also got murdered in that outrage by Doeg, who was, it turns out, Saul's big henchman, who was extremely vengeful and went around murdering all the people in Moab. So what a lot to think about there. And do we need to sometimes reflect on our thoughts about, where is God's righteousness and justice in situations we can't understand? But let's just stand back and think, well, how is our relationship with God? Are we trying to be an olive tree? Let's hope so. Anyway, that's my brief thought about this psalm, and recorded on 14th of, or for the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. So I hope you've taken someone out or been taken out for a very lavish meal with roses all over the table and a bottle of champagne by the side. So wishing you a happy Valentine's Day if it's today or whenever, whatever your day is. All the very best to you and God's blessings for you. Thank you. Goodbye.